This is March the 25th, 1971, the Oklahoma Historical Society. Mr. Robert G. Elliott is here to talk about his father, Thomas Newton Elliott, who participated in the Dawes Commission survey of Oklahoma. Mr. Elliott, would you like to tell us something about the date and place of your father's birth?
Am I on now?
No, your father's.
I mean, am I on?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, he was born at Grand Chain, Illinois, on February 1849.
Okay.
Changed that to April 1849.
Okay.
He lived on the farm. He was an orphan at about 8 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
He lived with an older sister, the oldest member of his family, immediate family. His father and mother both being dead. Till he was about 16 years of age, and desiring an education which he was not receiving in the local community in which his sister and his brother-in-law resided on a farm, and he swam the Ohio River, which was 1 mile wide, to the Kentucky side.
All right. Can I interrupt you for a minute?
All right.
Did you tell us where he was born?
He was born at Grand Chain, Illinois.
How do you spell that?
G-R-A-N-D, Grand,
Uh-huh.
like lake.
Yeah.
C-H-A-I-N, Chain, Illinois.
Grand Chain. Is that on the river, or is that?
Pretty close to the Ohio River.
Mm-hmm. What, do you know what county it's in?
Oh, I don't.
Okay, that's all right. Now let's see. What was his father's name? Do you recall that?
I think this interview is just going to be so incomplete
That's all right.
because I haven't found that. Now I
Okay,
know
we'll find it
I've
later.
seen that. Yes,
All right.
we can add it later.
Okie dokie, we'll add that later. Now let's see. All right, so his early years were spent in the state of Illinois, and
Yes.
he grew up with his older sister and his brother-in-law, and then he left and went to Kentucky. Now, what happened in Kentucky?
He went to a little private college called Blaine College, which was about some 15 miles west of Paducah.
Okay, now, where did he stay when he was at
He
that?
lived with a doctor in his family and did the chores for his upkeep.
And you said, I think you said he fed the horses? Is that what
Well,
he
that's
did?
right, yeah,
Fed
the
the
chickens,
horses
and
the chickens.
drove the doctor at night on
Mhm.
house calls at night,
Mhm.
and this was practically probably a gift, in other words, because he seemed to be such an energetic young man that they wanted to help him and did.
So they helped him go to school there,
Yes.
and
he graduated at Blandville College, and immediately was made joint professor or operator of the college with another man. I'll just furnish that name.
All right. Now, how long did he stay there at Blandville College? Or if you don't remember, well, we can find out later.
Well, all right, I don't, but I could probably tell you 16 and say 20 in 1849, 69.
Mm-hmm.
He must stay in Kentucky, some 12 years.
Okay.
Oh, wait, some 16 years.
Now, he must have met your mother while he was there.
Yes, he did, because he wasn't very far. It's 3 or 4 miles from Blandville College.
Did she go there to school?
No, she didn't go there. She went to a girls' school off in another state,
Okay.
Tennessee.
And she lived on a plantation, right?
Yes, 18 miles west of Paducah.
Now, what was her full name?
Her name was Mary Ellen, D-A-N-C-E, Dance. Mary Ellen Dance.
D-A-N-C-E?
Yes.
Okay. All righty. Now, what year was she born?
She was born 1862, on February 6, 1862.
Then she was a bit younger than he was, wasn't
Yes,
she?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Some 13 years.
Now, I guess he left her there and went on to Texas. Is that correct?
Yes, and taught school at in Dallas County, Texas.
Alrighty. What, you told me something about free schools there. Now,
Yes.
what's that?
About 1880, they opened the first free schools in Texas.
Okay.
And he taught in Dallas in one of the several, but limited to where it is now, free schools in Texas.
Okay. All right. Now that was about 1880.
Could have been, yes.
Now sometime in there he went back to Kentucky.
Well, let's see, 1880 Christmas. I'll give you a date there, either 82 or 83.
Yeah, you said...
We got married, that's what I'm calling.
Let's see, married 1883 Christmas night.
That's right, all right. And
Okay.
brought his bride to Ellis County, Texas, where he was teaching school.
Okay. And that was, the town there was, he brought her to Ovilla?
Old Villa, yes.
Ovilla.
Yes.
Alrighty. Okay. All right.
She also taught school with him, taught one of the grades for a year or so until she commissioned produced children. Of course, that became almost such a regularity that was over then.
And there were 8 altogether?
8 children altogether. 7 of us survived until some 7 or 8 years ago. The first one, this older sister died, and about 3 years ago, a brother died.
All right, now, when did your father take up surveying? Because that's what's going to be important later on now.
I'd say that he probably took up surveying after he went to Texas. Now, I don't have any recollection of any family conversation or information that he ever surveyed in Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
But he bought this little compass, which is on display with the Historical Society. He bought that about probably 1890.
Mm-hmm. 1890.
And that is give or take.
Yeah.
And
right.
He surveyed in Ellis County, Texas, for that for probably 15 years, and then we moved to Parker County, Texas in 1905, and of course he surveyed there also. Now on this...
what kind of surveying did he do in Ellis County?
More farm surveying and roads, you know. They were laying out, county commissioners laying out roads, you know.
Right. Now you said he was teaching school, so how could he do both?
Well, he did that in summertime and on Saturdays.
And on Saturdays.
And that black land of Texas, not at that time, but wasn't very long, it's selling $500 an acre. They never did pay for it. They just paid $50 an acre every month for a year on $500 to buy it. And so it's precious.
Yeah.
So then instead of just taking a plow and a scoop shovel and some teams or just making a road across somebody's pasture or so forth, they had to be laid off and the property lines established. Therefore, to make these roads and so forth, then he surveyed that and then lay out the roads. And of course they wasn't paved or asphalt, they were just hard black clay, it's dirt, you know, mounted up for drainage purposes and so forth.
Alrighty, now let's see. Now, where are we? 2 brothers and sisters. Alright, now. So, you were still living in Ellis County when he accepted this job of being on the Dawes Commission.
Yes.
Now, was he still teaching, or had he resigned from teaching, or what, when he took that? Do you remember?
He was a constant school teacher when he got this till he got this job with Dawes Commission, and then the job with surveying that railroad run extension of railroad run from San Antonio, Texas to the border of Mexico. Yes, and but he quit teaching school about 1916.
All right. So this Dawes Commission was done before he was still
1900,
teaching.
about 1900, 1902.
Did he take some time off from teaching, or was it done during the summer, or how?
Oh, that was a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone a year.
Okay, he just
Gone a year, and then
okay, that's what
he came home, and he went back.
Okay.
Now I'm remembering a little bit better, I guess. He went back, and the second trip he took fever, and was at Stonewall, Oklahoma. Mother went and nursed him back to health, and then brought him home.
All right. Now the second question there is, do you have any idea why he accepted the commission to be transit man? Was it he just wanted to?
Well, because it paid so much better. He got $100 a month. In 1900, that's equivalent to $1,000 now, and he would get $50 or $60 for running a 200 pupil school.
Oh, well,
as
there's
principal,
big,
you know.
big difference, isn't
Yes,
there?
it was.
Uh-huh.
And then I'm going to assume that he got his.
All right, we were discussing then before the phone rang why he accepted the commission. And you were telling me about his salary.
I believe it says on that commission that $100 a month.
Okay, I remember
it said
that.
Transit man from Texas. Didn't say where.
Didn't say where. Okay, now he's accepted his commission, and he's ready to come to Oklahoma. How did he get here?
Presumably, he rode the MK&T, Missouri, Kansas, and Texas, out of Waxahachie, Texas, through northeast Texas to Muskogee and on up in Missouri and St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably that's how he got there.
Okay.
And but he did, I believe he did start his actual surveying south of Tulsa.
South of Tulsa?
Yes, in Creek County, I believe. I've heard him talk about Sapulpa.
Uh-huh.
And
there must be some kind of a special marker or something from which that survey began then?
Probably very likely.
Well, we could find
Now,
out.
I think this survey was a second survey, a correction survey. Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
why did they have to make a correction survey?
well, that ain't gonna be on tape. I think by the way that there was lack of knowing how to do the job, and that's not the word, but the ability, and probably being swayed by human emotions and the people talking to him and so forth, and who had settled there, just squatters, you might say, and that could have been it. But I'm pretty sure that this Dawes Commission at about 1900 was a resurvey
of the same area to get the thing correct.
Yes.
Okay, now.
That's borne out of the fact is by my memory, which is down to be 70 years or more, was that they had to change a lot of the survey lines and cornerstones and markers, we'd say, and so forth. They were incorrect, and this was accepted. This survey made by now he wasn't the owner surveyor. This wasn't the owner surveying party. They had several of them.
Several of them.
How many I don't know. Had it was multiple number of them, 5 or 6 maybe 10. I don't remember. Well, I just really don't know. But their survey was accepted by the Department of the Interior.
All right, now
as being correct.
Is correct. Now,
and that survey stands, as far as I know, today. The law of the land in Eastern part in Indian Territory
is based on that survey.
Yes, that's right.
So it's very important.
But now you used the right word. I think the baseline was near Sapulpa, at Sapulpa, Keeper, somewhere in there, in some place that he started there, and I just don't know whether he surveyed in Muskogee County, or at least in the city of Muskogee. He might have surveyed the western part of it, but he got as far as Stonewall in Pontotoc County, and probably very likely when the mother came and got him after protective illness of some 60 days with fever, that he never did return. I just don't know.
Well,
I just don't know.
Yeah, well, okay, now, we were talking about a typical day, or a day in the life of a surveying crew, and you were telling me how they moved from place to place, and where they lived, and how they lived. Do you want to tell about that?
Yes. This survey team, or crew, had X-men to go ahead and cut the underbrush and clear the way, and clear a path that would be somewhere near what the surveyors thought it would be or should be, and so forth. And the X-men then had the wagon men, the mule drivers, wagon men we call them, and had 2 or more cooks. And so they had several tents. Had a cook tent where they served the meals and so forth, and the rest of the crew lived in tents. Now the daily report and notes taken from the daily report was kept in my father's possession, and when he went to bed at night there was a guard, not only guarding him but guarding against people that would be we'll try to come in and rob him, because if you worked for government you had money, that's one thing.
Yeah.
And had a guard and so forth. But those records were particularly and meticulously guarded.
Where were they kept in? Did you ever hear that?
Well, I don't know. And they sent in a report to the Department of Interior in Muskogee at intervals. I don't know whether it was daily or weekly or what.
I wonder how they got it there. Did they take it in the wagon, or
Probably
did they?
courier. Probably courier.
Yeah, get that way so you don't
And
hit your head.
probably courier.
Mm-hmm.
And or if they mail it, put it in the possession of the United States Mail, and that would be very safe, very safe.
Mm-hmm.
And well, then there'd be about 4 men sleep in a tent on cots and have wooden floors. And now my father had a tent of his own. He stayed by himself in a tent. Why I can't give any reasons, or I won't manufacture something otherwise, and so forth. But he had a tent by himself and so forth. And
let's see. Now you said there was the first transit man.
yes,
and the second.
And my father was called second transit man.
The first was a political
I
appointment.
believe it was, yes. And my father did all the surveying. Whether this first transit man was a qualified surveyor, I don't know. He might have been. I don't know.
Could have been. He could not have been. It just
Yeah.
depends. So right now. Okay. Now did he ever? Let's see. Let's see. We've given his exact duties. Now, oh yes, we've forgotten to talk about the compass and where he got that and its story before he got there.
All right, now the compass on display. You'll understand that. Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Perhaps it was a little frayed and torn, and what's the word where it just it faded and so forth. So in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I would think that he got that compass about not later than 1890.
Yes.
And from what it cost, I don't know. Now, I've been to Philadelphia a couple of times and took the time to try to explore, find out what this company is. And Chamber of Commerce and other manufacturing companies didn't know a thing more about them.
Can't trace it, huh?
Yes, sure, that's right.
Changed hands.
And he went back to the compass. He used this compass. That was his own possession, property. Used that for an interval, time I don't know how long. He used it until they could get they get a transit. Government get a transit down there, buy it and deliver it to them, and the transit was far more accurate. But this compass just as accurate because it had the brain power and knowledge and know-how of its user, my father. And but that wasn't very long.
Then they got the...
And of course, we brought that compass back. We used it in lieu of the government's transit, waiting on delivery of transit and so forth, and used it to survey farmland and lay out roads and determine property rights between farms owners, and in two of the instances laid out a little town lot plots, you know, and that's about the story on it.
It was used in Parker County too, then, I presume.
Yes.
And then when you were helping your father.
That's 1905. We lived in Springtown 1905 to January 1920 then.
Okay.
And a little over 14 years really. And we would go, and when he would go get a call to come survey and so forth, they'd come after him in earlier years in a horse and buggy or what we call a hack, would haul 4 to 6 people. Sometimes a wagon. They were a nice vehicle, and then later on through time, an automobile came about 1914-16. Well, then a lot of people had automobiles. They come and get an automobile. Well, we'd take the transit and the tripod which the transit sits on, and and a rod or a staff thing that you had out here that you sat on, and then a chain, a brass chain. You have one by some relative, or survey or something or other. I don't know whether he was a survey or not. And 66 2/3 feet, I think it was. And then we had little iron stobs. That's not the word. Pegs, I guess you call them, and be about 1.5 foot long, and the curve handle, and then if there were 10 of them, the problem was 12. A blue one stayed just under the compass, on the surveying instrument, and then they'd survey out 66 2/3 feet, and put one with a green or white. No white. I say blue. I meant each one of these things had a little piece of cloth on it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one at the end of the 665 some odd feet in the air, or so many rods. Why then that was red. That meant it out. Now the way that the surveyor, the little survey team, which comprised of the person that had hired him and his boys, and the neighbor who they were deciding the property lines and so forth. You take the ones that you rely upon, and one to go forward by way at the end of the chain. He say this end here would say stick, and he'd move the chain forward, and then we got there and got his chain all straightened out where he saw it stuck. And then they move on. That's the way they do it, you know. And the surveyor didn't move every time the horse had stuck. He'd survey down 3 feet south of a fence post, or a post oak tree, or some sort of a small tree or something like that, immovable object. And then that'd be 1/4 mile away maybe. And the way you survey land, you survey it and you cross survey it at hypotenuse, and they call it triangulation. Triangulation, and so it'd be very accurate. Well, we finished the survey in a few hours. May last till middle of the afternoon. We'd eat dinner with one of the families in which it employed us, and would go home then, and he'd take about a day to rest, and then he would make out a graph and plots and so forth, deliver it to this man. Now he received anywhere from $10 to $15 for surveying, and farm labor was only a dollar a day, and he worked with money, got $15 a month, $20 in the summertime, and school teachers worked for $50 a month, but that seemed like $10 to $15, and even $5 was a thing, but they had to have it. It was technical knowledge. Who could do that?
Right.
But an experienced surveyor. And well, I learned it. Father did all the book work and so forth, kept the records, but I ran the.
You were the leg man.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's see. So this compass was used here before he got the government equipment.
Yes.
Now, let's see. I think we've done number 3. Haven't we completed it? What were his exact duties? How long was he on?
Yes, that's right. About 2 years.
2 years on the Dawes Commission.
He was second transfer.
All right, now 4. Any experiences that he had while on the commission, and that's pertinent to Indian people, non-Indian residents in the territory, Dawes officials, and their names. Okay.
All right. There would be dressed up men, by way, presumably lawyers or somebody with some authority, official, or some political capacity or persuasive capacity, would come and would attempt to talk to my father and so forth. And just as soon as he got a problem where he sat them to the first transfer, because it was his job to do the surveying, and the first transfer was to run in charge of the whole operation. That survey team, and but they would want to discuss where they survey a couple of days before they run through a man's farm, or and could or could not have been an actual mistake made previously, and so forth, and he might have been holding that land under certain landmarks and so forth, and but of course that's what he thought it was. Well, they want to come and they want to adjudicate that. Some instances, by the way, come by way and would work up to a bribe. Where Cat lick his whiskers, by the way, they have a U.S. Marshal out there, and they was always lurking. They was in the community. You didn't go but an hour or so did you get one. He knew where they were, and they come out by the way and call that man, take him into the county jail at Ada or Saparpa or Muskogee or Oakmont or like that, you know.
Now this, do I
trying to
understand?
bribe.
In other words, that previous survey, people had built their barn, and the line would be running right through the barn, the new line, and they didn't want to have to give up their barn this land, so they were trying to change the lines again.
That's right, yeah. That's all right. Well, who's hurt, they'd say, or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking that could have happened.
Were any of these people squatters who had just taken up residence in the line?
No, this whole land was given to the Indians on quarter section.
Oh, this is the allotment.
That's what we're trying to say. In most cases, I'd say that in nearly all the cases, so forth, this was Indian land.
Yes, right.
Now, white men that married the Indians, or had gotten in with the tribe, not the whole tribe, but a little individual groups and so forth, and won their confidence and so forth, and he became the political say-so, and he'd operate for them and so forth. So they'd give up some of their monthly allotment that they drew, or money or something for upkeep, and he'd collect off of them and so forth. But there was many non-Indian residents in the territory where were married, white men married to Indian girls, and they used that marriage, by the way, not as what marriage really means to a couple, but he used it, by the way, for his own financial benefit. And and sometimes these Indian girls were dispossessed. You couldn't dispossess them legally, but they didn't know it, and men just take charge of her and just kick her out, and she'd go back to her folks, she'd go marry somebody else, all funny doings. So that's the way my father recorded it, or brought the information back and so forth. And now, the Dawes officials, and I don't know who they were or their names, that's under 4.
You're talking about some Indian chiefs that your father had their confidence, because you said he was a gentle man, or he had a
Yes, he was. Very understanding so forth. Now, I read on the Choctaws out here, and who the chiefs were and so forth, and I have, in reading out here and other information and so forth, that the Indians were, their chief appeared to be a educated man.
In some cases.
Probably didn't go down back to Pennsylvania to Indian college back there, and not like Carlisle, but they were gentlemen, and they could go to Washington, and they had and they made an impression upon the Congress. They'd go back there and plead the needs of their people. And but now this Indian chief, now which one of the 5 civilized tribes he was chief of, I don't know right now.
Well, he was in Creek country there. He was in the Creek area, wasn't he?
Yes.
Sapulpa?
Well, he wasn't in Choctaw either, because that's down further south.
Yeah.
I guess it's Creek Nation, yes.
So he must have known some of the Creek people.
Mm-hmm.
And the little girls, you said, but he's got some pictures somewhere, maybe.
Yeah, the little Indian girls, by the way, were their little long dresses, and so forth, and the little brown faces and so forth. And somewhere or another we have pictures of so the children gives their names and the daughter of Chief so-and-so.
I hope we can find them.
I'll try to make a determined effort to try to give you all the information you can if you can use it and so forth.
Okay. All right, so he made friends with all the people there that, because you said because he'd been a school teacher, I suppose he had a soft spot or a warm spot in his heart for children.
Because he had to swim the Ohio River, get out from under bondage.
Yes.
And then go into strange territory. It wasn't more than 50 miles, but that's far. But across a mile-wide river to get an education, well, then he had a soft spot for anyone that needed education, needed help. Always did.
Always did.
That's right.
All righty. Now let's see if I explain. Let's see now. How old were you when your father died?
Well, let me see. I was just under 21. He died in 1917. I was born in 1896. That'd be 21 years from July till November.
Right.
Just under 21 years old.
So a lot of this you heard him say himself.
Yes.
Listen to. When did he like to tell these stories about his days in Indian Territory? Was it after supper, or whenever people asked him, or wow?
He had a desk and an oak walnut desk, and his desk and so forth. And what he kept that thing was, we children wasn't allowed to probably go into it, but he'd be sitting there and at his desk working on intricate problems of, and he always had some child hanging on his leg, or hanging on his forepart of his leg, looking up in his face and so forth. And he's very gentle. He'd stop and talk to him and so forth. Now, as when he told about these incidents, I just don't know, because he just didn't open up and make a public display of it and so forth. But you had to well, I won't use the word persuasion, but you had to talk to him by way, and then he'd tell about it and so forth. And he was very slow talking, and using his brain instead of his mouth so much, and so it'd be accurate.
Yes.
He was a deeply religious man, deeply religious and so forth. And
Well, he wasn't just a natural storyteller then, like
No,
some people,
not
you know,
self-indulgent.
say, well, when I was back in Oklahoma, this and this and this
no,
happened.
you wouldn't.
So anything you know, you
Of course,
have.
he came home from this trip to Kentucky. Incidentally, we were very poor, and in 1914 we bought about a 90-acre farm. Moved off a 31-acre farm, and sold it and bought a 90-acre farm, and I quit school. I got very much school before, after, but I quit school that year and we had a double team. A brother, the second birth older than me, and I did the work. Well, my father wanted to go back there, and he had his heart set on going to Kentucky, and he went to the bank and borrowed, I believe, about $50 to make the trip. Well, they took him to weather and put him on the Texas Pacific, and then he got on International Great Northern. No, that wasn't the railroad. It was some other railroad, and went to Kentucky. Gone about 2 months, and he made his.
How old was he then?
Well, let's see, I've been 1914 and 49, 51. He was 65 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 65 years old.
Right. That's right.
And now he had a detailed notebook, and where he went and who he saw and so forth. Beside that, we have pictures of course, this is what they do at the Dawes Commission, pictures of his relatives, and their descendants down to second, third generation, really, at that time, 1914. But this brother, by the way, he was bitterly opposed to borrowing money to go take a trip. You know, that didn't look right and so forth. But other members of the family was for it, because that was he'd been such a good father and denied himself all those years, and so he had it coming. And thank God he got that trip to Texas and died in 3 years. And I have a black notebook, by the way, that's probably 20 pages of where he went and where he stayed, actually how much it cost him each
Every
day.
day.
Yeah, put on the money each day and so
10
forth.
cents for this and 12 cents for that.
He kept a little black notebook in his shirt pocket, you know, and
all the time?
When he went out and went to town everywhere and so forth, and he'd be sitting on the bench at the drugstore and talking to people, farmers and businessmen and the druggists and doctors and so forth. They'd be talking and so forth, and they wondered when a killing false will get here and so forth. He said, well, I'll let you know. How you know? Well, I have a record. And he went back and took the date of the first killing false, which would be was set November the 7th, and that was the average of all the killing false for 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after, and so forth. And made an average on November the 7th. And he wrote an article in the local paper then, predicting that he would have a killing false on November the 7th. November 11th, but it was just white. That wall right there.
Oh, his reputation was made
Oh boy, yes, yeah.
Oh,
He made notes and so forth, and they discussed something or other, and like we're discussing Dawes Commission, and he didn't know, and he said, I'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
Well, he'd find out. Had no way to find out other than writing.
Yeah.
Writing to some department of Washington, but he's the word gregarious. Is that talkative, or is that where you want information? Where the word was and so forth. Anyway, he wouldn't quit till he got the information fully, and it had to be correct. He wouldn't take any. Not a certain way, but he'd get several cross references to find out whether it was actually true and what was the true status of something.
It's possible then, we were discussing this earlier, that he did make some kind of a journal about his Dawes
Coming out
Commission
this morning,
days.
I just know he did it somewhere or another, and I had to track that from my niece and up in Northern California through the older sister, or
that would be so
this sister that lives 3 blocks north of me, and or it's laying dormant in some place in some boxes of old family stuff, pictures of that I just haven't found. But did find this trip to Kentucky.
Well, that's good. You did find that then.
And
so it may still be there somewhere.
I certainly hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I can see why he wouldn't make. Now I didn't find any letters from his camp or camps here in the Dawes Commission in Oklahoma. To my mother living back there in Ovilla. I haven't found any letters I didn't find any letters from him to her. And if you find them, they certainly should be added to this. Now let's see. Now I don't think that this is pertinent or essential and so forth, but you spoke about my brother. Well, I just talked about one brother that I go talk to and so forth, and he knew nevertheless nothing. So his sister living here in Oklahoma City, and both of them knew about this railroad survey, which came later. I don't know, came later. It had to come between 1984 and probably 1902 when he finished his Dawes Commission. I'm right on the date, so years rather. And there was 2 girls and 5 boys. And during World War I, 5 of us was in uniform at the same time. 4 of us, in uniform at the same time.
Is that where you met Mr. Fraker?
I met him in American Legion.
I see.
I was he came to Capitol Hill American Legion meeting in one winter or spring, maybe this time of year, and he told me sitting there that he was superintendent of schools at Chickasha, and that gave me a kindred feeling for another school teacher. And so he wanted me to be his campaign manager, and that post said, well, I'll be campaigning for the whole county if necessary. So I worked pretty hard for Fred, and for Mr. Fraker, and he was elected without any trouble. I don't remember whether any opposition or not, but he was elected anyway. You know, I don't understand that, why he blurted out by the way that wasn't interested. I come took what he was often told about this. Your rows 2 or 3 generations before you, so they've been landing there by the way of what you have where my mother was born.
Kentucky, and
married in 1882 or 3.
83, you said.
83.
Came to Texas, and then you said in 1920 you and your mother came to Oklahoma City.
2 brothers and sisters. And 4 of us came to Oklahoma City.
How come you came here?
This brother Henry was a 2nd lieutenant down at Fort Sill during World War I, and they come to Oklahoma City, and the crowds around, and so he liked Oklahoma City. In fact, when we decided to leave the farm, was either Fort Worth, which had been too close to where we lived, 25 miles, or Oklahoma City or Wichita. And probably more than anything else, there was a friend of his that was about 1916, was in the army with my brother out in California, and but since that, after that, he had been discharged and living here in Oklahoma City around the grocery store.
I see.
And Henry found him, and so I guess that was really the deciding factor.
Okay, that brings us up to date now. Let me see now. This concludes the interview with Mr. Robert Elliott.